We're talking with Michael Harrison this morning, editor of Talkers Magazine, and also a good friend at 718 on WSBA. Good morning again, Michael. And, one of the things is I was listening to you talk, and I'm always like an acolyte sitting at the altar there listening to what you have to say, because I tell you, you always have such great wisdom, and I appreciate that. But, something that hit me. Receptivity and humbleness in listening and processing what someone is saying is something that seems to be missing today in our culture. I've often, and Michael and I have been together at a couple different events over the years, and one of the things that two of the qualities you have is receptivity and humbleness, and wisdom, I might add, but receptivity and humble, you receive information well, you're very humble about how you do it, and then you process it in a way where it makes people want to stop and pause and think. And isn't that what every talk show host should maybe aspire to want to do in this country? Your thoughts?
Well, it's embarrassing to hear you say that. It makes me want to make jokes like, yes, and those are among my finest attributes.
No, I sincerely mean that. I really, you know me well enough. I don't blow smoke like that. So, yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying. It's for you to say, not for me to say, but I appreciate it. No, I do believe that everybody should be humble. I mean, even Rush Limbaugh. When somebody of our generation or somebody that's important dies, it brings us all back to the reality of what's really important in life. Mm-hmm. And Rush was talking on the air. I was listening to him. He was talking on the air about how, first he was in denial for a week, and then he said, "How could this happen to me?" And I think his words were, "I'm Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
I'm Mr. Big."
Right.
I mean, and that's chilling, that no matter who you are, whether you're president of the United States, whether you're Rush Limbaugh, come on, we're all human. We're all going to die. We all face the same problems. And if we bring that to the table while we're on top, while we think we're Mr. Big, we'll be a lot better at being a human being, and thus we'll have more wisdom. We'll tap into those things that are really important, and we'll get to the bottom of things. So I think that type of soulful, soul-searching approach to life makes for better conversation, and certainly makes for a more honest discussion when we're dealing with such existential issues such as COVID or climate change or racial justice. This is the core of being a human.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think I've used this example a lot of times. I said that the normal conversation you find, for example, on social media nowadays is, well, I believe A. Well, I believe B. Well, what about C? Well, you suck. That's the end of the conversation. That's not a conversation. That's a hit-and-run drive-by, as Rush might have said. But, the idea that we can't get beyond that we have to have our pound of flesh in there, and we have to win, and you have to lose in the conversation, and the idea that I couldn't say to you, well, why do you believe what you believe? I'm really interested in hearing that. How did you arrive at your philosophy? And then really care about that. That's what's important, isn't it?
Yeah, what you just said is, why do you feel the way you feel? What led you to that, as opposed to, don't you realize you're wrong?
Yeah.
Have people justify what they're saying and then listen to the justification. And then sometimes the person you're arguing with will have at least a reasonable point of view as to why they feel that way. Sometimes somebody else's truth is their truth, not your truth. It depends on whose shoes you're standing in, or that expression, point of view, perspective. And it's not that everything has a right and a wrong. Sometimes there are many truths, and by respecting somebody else's lot in life and why they've come to that, then you can begin to do that wonderful thing we used to call compromise, which is at the core of the two-party system, and it's the core of American democracy, is compromise. Because you can't run an enterprise as complex and as big as the United States of America and expect everybody to fall into neat little categories and for the jigsaw puzzle to have a clear picture. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be messy. And it's going to involve putting up with what you need to so that everybody can feel a sense of connection to the entity, that people are not completely disenfranchised and thrown to the side or marginalized. That's a tricky business, and it requires a lot of sensitivity, and it requires emotional maturity. So No, we have a lot. We have a lot of learning to do, and we have a lot of challenges to meet. And that, I think, is what talk radio should be concerned with: meeting the challenges of day-to-day grassroots community conversation and working out our problems, finding solutions together, being sparky, being controversial, pushing the envelope, being brave, being funny. You asked earlier, satire, humor. Not taking ourselves so seriously, and continuing on. I think the pendulum is going to swing back to a better balance. I think we're out of balance right now, and I think that it's marvelous how human communications work. We will find more of a stasis. We will find a balance just by following the laws of nature and following common sense.
Now, how do I add anything to that? I got to end at that. See, that's what you do to me. You put the exclamation point on, and I can't go any further. No, great stuff this morning, Michael. We're right at the end of our time, unfortunately. But I'll tell you what, no one could have said that better. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think you really put it into good context, and I look forward to our next talk very soon, my friend.
Same here. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.